Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Smith, and welcome to the Ryan Smith PhireBall Sports Podcast. This is the NFL Week 5 preview. Hope you enjoy the highlights from Week 4, and let's get right down to it. Early tomorrow morning, 9:30-ish, I believe, Eastern Time, you got the favorite game of mine, the London trip for the NFL. It's a favorite game of mine because in 2007, that slop at Wembley Stadium that the Giants and Dolphins played in, where Eli Manning was outrunning Jason Taylor for a touchdown because the field was such a miserable, the pitch, Brits, were such a miserable mess that the football players, the real football players, that hit each other in the head, they couldn't even get traction. And Eli Manning became a rushing quarterback. And that, I remember, was the first of 6 consecutive road wins in the 2007-2008 season that the Giants beat the undefeated Patriots for the first time, and then Brady for a second time a few seasons later. But I digress. The Jets are there this week, and the Jets are coming in off a loss, playing the Minnesota Vikings, who, besides the defending champion Super Bowl Chiefs, are the only undefeated team in the NFL this season. Sam Darnold, I'm sure, would love nothing more, and I'm sure that if he had his wish, it would be to go into MetLife against the Jets in Jersey for the New York crowd and show the Jets that they traded away their franchise quarterback, who was just a weapon like Justin Jefferson, away from being a bust first-round draft pick to the right first-round draft pick that had an awful Jets, traditionally awful Jets organization, making calls, not giving him the weapons he needed, and he'd love to beat them there. They're undefeated. Here's the bottom line, though. It's very hard to go 5-0. So instead of just giving you my picks this week, I'm going to tell you how you look at it from each side, whatever you're feeling. And I'm going to hopefully give you some insight. If you like the Vikings, their offense has been explosive. Their defense is good. Darnold and Jefferson are an unstoppable force. Even when they were up 28-0 last week and the Packers in Lambeau Field, a tough place to play, staged a comeback, they still, because of the Jefferson-Darnold connection, converted a big third down with Jefferson going almost horizontal and getting his 2 toes in. It got ruled a catch. It was a catch, and it extended the drive just long enough so when the Packers got the ball back, that game was out of reach. All right, the Vikings are flying high. And let's not get it twisted. Not only was that a divisional game that they won on the road, the Packers, and I'll get into this more as we move along, are one of the 4 or 5 teams in the NFL that I think, despite the fact they're not 3-1, 4-0, or, that if they, I'm sorry, I should say, regardless of the team's records, that they could do something if they continue at the level of play that they're at, because the recipe that they have works. And the Vikings beat them. So if you're looking at the Vikings, that's obvious. However, don't forget, they're the only team besides the dynasty-esque Kansas City Chiefs that are undefeated this year. And it's hard to win 5 games in a row at any time in an NFL season. It's very hard to stay undefeated. And sometimes it's even good to get the loss out of the way so the pressure isn't there. Ask yourself, are the Minnesota Vikings, even if Darnold's everything that you think, and even though the Minnesota Vikings signed the outside linebacker that the Giants probably should have signed, because of that $18 million instead of the $30 that they're giving Burns, would have allowed them to sign Barkley too, and have more money to sign other offensive line. Even though all that's true, are they the team in the NFL when you have your Ravens, when you have your Bills, when you have your Chiefs? Are they the team that belongs in that discussion? The team that, I know Darnold wasn't there, but with Kirk Cousins lost in the playoffs to the New York Giants the year before last? I don't know. We will see. And if you're a Jets person who is thinking home field advantage is out of the picture, Jets are coming off a loss. And I would say, here's what you look at it from that perspective. Aaron Rodgers. He can have a big game anytime. The Jets are not an awful team by any stretch of the imagination. And any team in the NFL that's coming off a loss that needs to turn it around is dangerous. So if you're looking to be 5-0, the London game is the one game that, despite how talented the teams are, who's hot, who's not, it doesn't really matter. And I think that that in that game, the Jets are going to be. That would be what you look at. Sheer. You don't have to analyze it much further. It's too hard to be undefeated in the NFL, and I don't know if the Vikings are the team to do it. I think the Jets are certainly good enough to beat them. Excuse me while I change the backdrop for you guys here, so you have what I intended you to see. All right, so that's pretty much it. I don't have too much positive to say about the Jets. I don't know if they're coached well. I don't know if they're built to last. But what I will say is that it's hard to go 5-0. I don't think the Vikings are one of the teams that should be leading the NFL in record. I do think they're improved. I really would like to see Darnold turn it around and make a career out of it. But I think that this week the Jets might get them. I gave you both sides. Vikings, obviously, if they keep it up the win, the Jets, it's kind of like they're due. And I don't know, it might be too much poetic justice in 5 weeks for Darnold. Moving on to the Giants. I'm going to do the New York teams first. If you are a defensive coordinator in the NFL, all right, and you are going to game plan for the New York Giants, who, instead of re-signing Saquon Barkley and going after the linebacker from Houston, they go to the linebacker from Carolina for $10 million, $12 million more per year. And they bring in, Slash Singletary and Malik Neighbors, their rookie, who leads the NFL in catches and receptions. But let me say this. I'm a diehard Giants fan, all right? I am a diehard Giants fan. Daniel Jones is definitely the best quarterback that the Giants have had out of Duke since Dave Brown. That's not a statement of opinion. That is a fact because he's the only quarterback, I think, in the NFL out of Duke since Dave Brown. Sonny Jurgensen, I think, came from Duke. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. But anyway, the Giants. How do you game plan against a team that dropped 2 divisional games to put themselves in a situation where they got to go on the road and play Seattle in that insane stadium and win? And then the Cincinnati Bengals, who I'll get to, but I think will be coming off another loss after they play the Ravens this week, just to salvage any hopes of having a good season. I don't know if you can even do it. And then, let me say, game plan for him by saying Neighbors, yes, he leads the league in catches. Yes, he leads the league in yards. He's scoring touchdowns. But he's not doing what OBJ or Justin Jefferson does. He's not making these amazing catches. They're just targeting him 15 times a game. He's not dropping it. Not to take anything away from him. He's going to be a good player for a long time. I haven't seen anything extremely special out of him aside from the stats. And when your quarterback is Daniel Jones, who had a safety blanket of Saquon Barkley for his whole career, all right, would run for his life, rushing for almost 1,000 yards, and plays that really weren't designed to be runs. He just took off because it's almost like he's not an NFL quarterback, which he's not. He's a game manager at best. That's what you would hope for the Giants, and they can win. I don't know if that's the league we're in anymore. I really don't. It's a quarterback league, and the defense can't touch anyone without getting flag thrown. So let me add this. So you game plan by shutting down Neighbors, and if you're as good as the Seahawks, you might win by doing that alone, all right? Just by double covering them. Make Wan'Dale Robinson beat you. Make the Giants' rushing game, which against the Cowboys rushed 24 times for 27 yards, all right? Make them beat you. But guess what? You don't have Neighbors. He's out. You don't have Singletary. He's out. What on earth are they going to do? They're going to rely on their $30 million outside linebacker, not the guy from Houston that goes to Minnesota and is a top 5 sack guy this year and last, Brian Burns, the guy that has all the athletic potential in the world and is making Kayvon Thibodeau look good. He's making Ojulari look good. But I don't see him on the stat sheets and tackles. I don't see him on the stat sheets in forced fumbles, in picks, in sacks, in anything. All right. He's a great player. He's probably the best player on defense, because of his pass body work. He hasn't played like it. Defense probably isn't going to shut down the Seattle Seahawks at home. But they can. It's possible. But what are you going to do on offense? You're going to have to rely on Daniel Jones to not make mistakes in that loud stadium with the 12th man. All right? You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to hope your special teams maybe gives you kick returns punts and pins them inside of their 5. And you're going to have to hope that the rushing game can keep the defense off the field for long enough between outings between series that they are not gassed going into the Northwest in that stadium and being the biggest focal point of that roster. So I did say, I'm going to tell you how, if you're going to bet either way, the spread is 6.5 before Neighbors was ruled out officially because of concussion. Before Singletary was ruled out at all. I'm guessing I haven't gotten any official word from ESPN, who does keep their spreads updated, to the hour, but I'd guess that spread might move to 7.5. And if you're the Giants, you're going to have to win against the Seahawks, much like you won against the Vikings in the playoffs in 2022, which is Daniel Jones will drop back, and when he's under pressure, he'll take off and run, and he'll run for 100 yards, run for his life. The defense will come up with turnovers, all right? Not, keeping the points low, not keeping yardage low, not keeping them under 100 yards rushing, not keeping them under 250 yards passing. No, turnovers, big plays, right? That's what the Giants have to do. And Tyrone Tracy Jr., this cat from Purdue, the receiver turned running back. You saw against the Cowboys. You saw him fumble a kick return. I would like to think that because he's a rookie and maybe there's some I don't know what the whole coaching staff is thinking. Dable looks like he's thinking about putting a noose there. But, I mean, either that or he's going through personal problems. It doesn't look like his head's in the game. But let's say you fumble as a rookie, returning a kick, you're benched. 24 attempts, 27 yards at the end of the game. 13 yards were from Tyrone Tracy Jr. on one play, in which he broke 5 tackles from the Cowboys. And this wasn't that grabbing at the legs and, that, awful tackling that you see on display every week in the NFL. He put his shoulder down and ran people over. He ran that linebacker level over. He got to the secondary level, ran them over, and finally was brought out of bounds, and then you don't see him for the rest of the game. In the game that they would have won if Barkley was on the team, but more importantly, if they could just establish a run in any way, shape, or form. I think I saw going in the fourth, I want to say, and I could be wrong, but it was like 29 minutes to 16 minutes, the Giants had the ball, and they can't put this game away. It's because there's no rushing. The defense, no turnovers. And yes, special teams, Tyrone Tracy Jr., he fumbles, but instead of returning it for a touchdown. But maybe this week, because they have no choice, they get him involved. And he is a home run hitter. Go check out Tyrone Tracy Jr. highlights on YouTube and check out how explosive this dude was at Purdue. All right? He can run between tackles. He can run on the outside. He can catch the ball. He changes direction on a dime. This guy is good, and he returns kicks. I think the first time he touched the ball last season, it went 99 yards for a touchdown on a kick return. So he's going to need to do something, because the way that they beat the Vikings in the playoffs in 2022 was that Jones didn't make mistakes, number one. All right? Saquon Barkley hit home runs, 30 yards, big touchdown run, screen for 50 yards. Those plays are going to have to come from Tyrone Tracy Jr. But you know what's good? I don't think they should be coming from Singletary, because he's not that type of player. He's a great change of pace, third down back. He's a Dave Meggett, maybe, with a little bit of a different makeup. And, I'm not talking about off the field. I know what Meggett's in jail for. But anyway, Tyrone Tracy Jr., that's what the Giants are at. Wan'Dale Robinson, Tyrone Tracy Jr. got to step up. And maybe Jalen Hyatt can prove to me he should be in the NFL, because if not, I would, as his agent, recommend that he tries out for the U.S. track team. And I'd say something offensive about how you can get on the U.S. women's track team, because I think he's more suited there, because he does not look like he has heart. Even that Hail Mary, he decides to jump up in the middle of 3 defenders instead of boxing out and going after the ball. He's waiting for it to come to him and it gets picked. No, you're in the NFL, son. You go up for the ball. You get position on the ground before you jump. Anyway, enough of the New York sports. The Giants are likely going to lose. If they're going to win, it's going to be because you're surprised. And in the NFL this season, that's almost been a guarantee in the games that are lopsided like this. If you're the Seahawks, I don't really got to explain why Geno Smith and Metcalf are going to keep up that long game and putting up points at home. I don't really have to explain it. Their performance last year and this year and their flat-out roster talent versus the Giants roster talent speaks for itself. That's why you bet the Seahawks. You bet the Giants if you think that, there's some magic in the air. And I'm telling you, they lost Singletary, okay? They lost Neighbors. Well, maybe you shouldn't be forcing the ball to Neighbors that much anyway. And they do have a bunch of receivers that are solid. He's obviously the best, but maybe they get the tight end from Penn State involved. They're going to have to get the rookies involved in the offense. And Daniel Jones is going to have to do something more than just not make mistakes. All right, so moving on. Let's get to some exciting games in the NFL. All right, so since the first time I put on the show, I said the Baltimore Ravens are the team that I think if I had to, and I don't do this because it's crazy, but if I had to bet, a futures bet on who would win the Super Bowl, it would be the Baltimore Ravens because of the fact when they added Henry, they were adding him to a team at the time. I think that Odell Beckham was still on their roster. I think he was hurt, but Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham are on their team, and they already, with Lamar Jackson, have a running game and a guy that's a dynamic, generational talent quarterback with a good D, with a good coach. And Jackson is just waiting to take that next step where he could be, it could be a Manning Brady situation with him and Mahomes. Who knows? Who knows? That it's possible. They're the best team in the NFL on paper. I believe that very much. And with that signing of Henry, because a lot of teams could have signed him. God knows the Dallas Cowboys could use him right now because the Giants should have won that last week. They should have beat the Commanders. They lost 2 division games. Sorry, I'll try to stick off of being angry at the Giants and just shame. God, what a moron. But anyway, the Ravens are playing a team this week that is a good team. They should have beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe if the refs called the game the way they should have, it wouldn't have come down to that last drive and game-winning field goal. They would have made an extra point. It wouldn't have come down to that. That call on Jamar Chase for unsportsmanlike shouldn't have been a call. The pass interference that ended up being a 36-yard penalty. It was pass interference, but considering that they're running the 2-minute drill, and that's 3rd and 16. I'm sorry, I think was it 4th and 16? 3rd and 16 or 4th and 16. Mahomes throws that ball up, guys, into the middle of the field. He's jumping 3 feet off the ground, and before the ball gets there, he's pushed from behind. It is PI, but if you call it because of where he threw it, so is why he threw it. He's hoping if it doesn't get picked, maybe they interfere with the guy because they're going to throw it so high that he maybe can jump for it and they'll bang into him. And that's exactly what happened. The refs threw the flag because late. They knew they shouldn't because it's going to decide the game, and boom. They ran the ball. They ran the ball, 3 plays against the Bengals, kick the field goal. They win by 1. Bengals should have won. Bengals are a good team, but their defense seems to, and against the Chiefs, their defense caused turnovers. The defense had some picks. They were special teams. They were getting good yardage on the returns. They need to stop getting into shootouts because Jamar Chase is a great player. Joe Burrow is a great quarterback. I think that last year should have been a bounce back year for them because don't forget, going in, after 2022, they were the AFC, represented in the Super Bowl. So you think in 2023 that this is going to be, the year to bounce back. It wasn't. It wasn't. And this year, I thought certainly it will be. And it could be. But here's the thing. The Baltimore Ravens suffered a loss to the Raiders and another loss that they shouldn't be in a situation that they are fighting to be atop the AFC North right now. But if it is with anyone, it's with the Bengals. And I think because of what I saw last week against the Bills with Henry, who was just the cherry on top. All right, Lamar Jackson and the receiving corps, the offense runs because of them. But with that guy running the ball, leading the league in rushing, I believe, definitely the AFC, it's going to be a offense that I don't think Cincinnati's equipped to stop the way their defense has been playing in every game except that one against the Chiefs. All right. And unless they can come up with turnovers and, I don't know, make Jackson look bad and Henry and stop the running game, which they've not done an awful job doing, but the passing game, Lamar Jackson can light you up. All right. And they haven't been able to stop anybody. They've had some weak teams put up points on them. So they've gotten in shootouts. But then again, the teams they played we thought were weaker than they actually ended up being. I think they played the Commanders on Monday night, if I'm not mistaken, and they lost it. I think they were 88.5-point favorites. I hope I'm not wrong on that, but I think that was it. That's what people started saying. Daniels is the real deal. So if you want to look at the Bengals, they're at home. It's a divisional game. All right. They've lost some tough ones. They're due to win a tough one. But the Ravens, I think, have the potential, if they win this game, to make a statement in the NFL that we are the team to beat, especially in the AFC. And I have a few teams that I'm going to include in that, but that is the game I'm most interested in seeing. Moving forward, the team that they beat last week that makes me so confident in the Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, 3-1, atop of one of the worst divisions in football now, with Tua gone and the Patriots being what they are, and the Jets, who knows. The Buffalo Bills, they are playing the Houston Texans. It's a similar game. It's a similar game because of this. The Chiefs are undefeated, okay? We're going to get to the Chiefs and Saints because that's next. But you got the Bills at 3-1. You have the Ravens, who are the Ravens, that just beat them badly. They torched them, all right? So now they're playing a Houston Texans team with Nico Collins, C.J. Stroud. Stroud was great last year. He's looked good this year. Nico Collins is stepping up. The team puts up points. The Bills couldn't stop the Ravens last week. Their first, they beat the Dolphins game. They haven't come in, really shown that they're that team that was, 16-1, 15-2. I don't remember. They were great in 2022. They haven't shown they're that team. This is the week that they should step up and do it. It's not a must-win in terms of that it's going to make or break their season if they don't win, but it is a must-win in terms of that. If you want to convince me that I'd say in the AFC, you got to be concerned with the Chiefs. You got to be concerned with the Ravens. You got to be concerned with the Bills. All right. If that's what, and the Bengals, maybe. Those are the teams. If they want to be in that discussion, they need to beat the Houston Texans, or else you could just as easily put the Texans in that discussion. The Bills with Josh Allen, even when they were down big, that when he rolled out to the right and bombed that ball downfield, I think it ends up being 3 to 10 yards short of a touchdown. I don't really remember. It was on my intro video. But Josh Allen, he needs to be that type of quarterback, like Patrick Mahomes, despite whatever weapons he doesn't have, that steps up and does it. Will he be able to? He doesn't have the defense that Mahomes has. He doesn't have the coaching that Mahomes has. And few do. And he's not a clutch player at this point. This is a week, just like I said, that they're coming off an embarrassing loss. They're in first place. The Jets could knock off the Vikings. They could fall to 3-2. And all of a sudden, a division that you share with the Dolphins and the Patriots, who are playing each other this weekend, you are not in firm control of as the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. You got to beat the Texans because that would be a statement win. Texans barely won last week. They can be beat. You should be beating them. So moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to step up and say these people who are saying that Travis Kelce has lost a step. He's 34 years old. He's not what he used to be. I will tell you that up until the playoffs, where he had one of the greatest playoffs I've seen anyone have since Plexico Burress or Victor Cruz with the Giants, off the top of my head. I'm sure there's others. I'm sorry, but I'm a Giants fan. I'm covering everyone, right? But until that, as a pass catcher, I believe the Taylor Swift nonsense is what is up. Is what his head's up Taylor Swift's ass, right? His head is up Taylor Swift's ass. That's what I believe. I know it's going to be controversial, but he started dating her in October. He was having an amazing career season. I think he had a great game the first time she came. Go check it out. I don't think he scored more than one touchdown for the rest of the season, and it came in a loss. I think it might have been to the Eagles. I don't remember. But he rebounded in the playoffs. He was a crucial part of them winning the championship. Okay. This year and last week, he bounced back. No, he did not bounce back. Let me tell you something. He caught a 38-yard pass against 27. What's his name on the Chargers? Doesn't matter. The safety that I can't remember his name. He beat him off the line, and Mahomes, your quarterback, dropped it in, so you had a 38-yard gain. Okay. And then you caught a 19-yard pass where Mahomes put the ball right in your gut. There was about a half a foot to your right, a half a foot to your left, a half a foot to your back, all right? And it could have only got delivered in that 1 second window, or else they would have been converging on you in a triple team. He threaded the needle. All right, so you caught, I think, 7 or 8 catches for 79, 89 yards, and Mahomes only completed 19 passes. Okay, but those 2 were for over 55 yards, and the other 5 were for a total of, I think, between 25 and 30. That's pitiful. Kelsey has his head up the ass of Swift. He's worried about his podcast. He's worried about being in a movie, being an acting coach. I would be benching him if I'm Reed. I don't care what anyone says, because they don't have a weapon. Pacheco's out. They don't have a wide receiver threat. Was it Conway? Who's the number 1, the receiver that caught that bomb that was well overdue from Mahomes? I haven't seen one in a long time, partly because Kelsey isn't there. They're banged up, but they're well coached. I thought when Aaron Donald left the NFL that I would never see a defensive tackle make an impact on games like he did. And then Jones on the Chiefs. I don't know if his stats show it or not. I know he's had a few sacks because I've seen him in big moments. Stats don't show when you make the plays in the big moments. He's caused turnovers in big moments. That Bengals game I talked about, they won because of a play that he made. I don't think he forced a fumble. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't remember. But he put pressure on Burrow. He stepped in the pocket. He ran for his life from him and ends up fumbling, and the ball gets picked up by the corner, taken in, touchdown. And that's the type of stuff. And I don't really think that he's the one that hit him. I think somebody else did. It shows up as a nothing. Or if he did it shows up as just a sack. Yeah, it's a fourth quarter sack when your team's down. They're going to score. You take it in yourself. It's a 14-point swing from a defensive tackle. You just caused a 14-point swing. Last week, in the fourth quarter, they're down all game against San Diego. He's the reason they're winning. That Mahomes doesn't have a great year. What does he have? 6 interceptions, 5 interceptions? He threw one last week. Oh, and the one he threw last week, watch it. I don't know if anyone's talking about it. What I saw is Kelsey running, and then he hears footsteps, and it made it look like Mahomes overthrew him. No, he stopped running for the ball because he was afraid of a little D-back hitting him. A D-back. What does the guy weigh? 260? 6'7", 6'5"? You're afraid of the D-back hitting you? He's not going to probably even hit you. He's probably going to wait till you see if you catch the pass or go for a pick. But you stopped running and the ball gets picked off. Anyway, Mahomes has, and I will never take the swimming quarterback because Eli Manning, who will be inducted into the Hall of Fame, he won 2 Super Bowls and he beat Tom Brady twice. No one has ever done it. He won 2 Super Bowl MVPs at quarterback. Go check how many people have done it, especially 2 out of 2. All right. And he was a clutch player. He had more fourth quarter comebacks than Roethlisberger and Rivers. I'm not saying he's better than either, but he has more championships than Rivers. I think him and Roethlisberger about the same. And he was more clutch. And I think he had 12 receivers in his career have over 900 yards in the season. And all of them were a shell of himself no matter where else they went. It was Eli. Now Mahomes and has that same clutch gene that Brady, that Manning, and many others in history. I'm not going to name past quarters, but Mahomes hasn't had a great year, but he's in the clutch. He's found a way to win. All right? He did it last week. They were down all game. He has the Bengals. He's done every week. But the Chiefs aren't winning big. They're winning. They're just squeaking these wins out. That's a sign of a team that finishes. A team that finishes, right? That finishes well is the difference between a champion and a team that misses the playoffs. You finish well in 5 games, and you let the lead slip away like the Jacksonville Jaguars did, like so many teams did last week, like the Packers almost did. If you do that, if you don't finish and win, it's a difference between winning the championship and not making the playoffs. Well, Mahomes has proven that they're not the team that's not making the playoffs. Reed, by the way, I love, has cemented himself. He's right next to Tom, the best coach in the NFL, PhireBall, but he's as accomplished as anyone. He can add on more. And with the Phillies, he was just as much of a winning coach, except because McNabb's not a real winning quarterback. And the Eagles aren't a real winning organization. I will smile when I say that because it's true. He didn't get it done. And with the Chiefs, if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm thinking, geez, it's worse than the Giants letting Coughlin go and becoming the laughing stock of football after Eli Manning leaves and after being benched for Geno Smith to play the next week. After the disorganization of that team, that's what the Eagles are. You let Reed go? That was your problem? That was your problem? Okay, all right. Well, look what he's doing. It's not just because of Mahomes. It's not just because Tyreek Hill was there, Kelsey. It's because of the players, obviously. But this year, they're winning by small margins. That's a well-coached team. Now to their opponent, the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints, with their car, they're 2-2. They were a big winner on the road against the Cowboys. All right. They played the Eagles tough. They could have won and should have won that game. Derek Carr, the way things ended in Oakland, right? They bring in Devontae Adams. They have Jacobs. He's there. He's averaging 95 quarterback rating, 255, 260 yards a game. They just look at his record. That team was from the front office, the way they drafted for the entire time he was there until they benched him in 2022 because they don't want to pay him the $40 million guaranteed for 2 years in 2023-24. They cut him, and then he signs with the Saints. That will be a move. Saints. I said I have my eye on the Ravens. I said I have my eye on their opponent, the Bengals. I said I have my eye on the Bills. I have my eye on the Saints. All right? Saints and the Packers, just so you know. They're teams I have my eye on. Because depending on what they do this week, I'm going to speak about them differently next week. And with the Saints, plain and simple, they kind of need to win this game because of how good of a team they are. Derek Carr's a good quarterback, right? I think they're going to I really believe that they are going to go out and get Devontae Adams because people forget how they were going to, they can say what they want. It was because they don't want to pay him $40 million. They were trying to bring in Tom Brady. It was all a big plan, and they embarrassed Derek Carr, and it was despicable. It was like New York Jets-esque management of an organization. They should have never done that. A quarterback like that with the grading and the stats that he put up, the record doesn't matter. The weapons around you are that bad. And then Josh Jacobs is there as a young kid that's putting up big numbers, and you bring in Carr's best friend from college, is now one of the most dynamic receivers in the NFL, still in Las Vegas with the Raiders, and you don't let them play together? I think because everyone thinks the Chiefs and they look fantastic. No, they shouldn't. No, they shouldn't. They have too much. Look at the cap. They have talent all over that roster. They're a dynasty type team. You don't bring in a dynasty receiver. You don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need it. You do need to bring in somebody because the injury. Mahomes needs somebody to throw to, but it doesn't need to be someone of that caliber. They could bring in, for example, Wan'Dale Robinson for the Giants. If the Giants want to catch, he's a good receiver. With someone like Mahomes and that system, he could thrive. Bringing in number 2 on somebody else's team, all right, that is a solid vet and works hard and that wants to win, that's who you get. And you get him for a bargain. All right. I think the Saints beat the Chiefs this week because the same reason I said the Jets might upset the Vikings, because this league, you can't predict what's going to happen from one week to the next. And because of that, I believe that the Saints can win this game and then start position themselves to trade for Devontae Adams and build some momentum and become a force. All right, they can become a force. They can. They are a good team. I mean, people were talking about them going to the Super Bowl after what they did to the Cowboys. All right, so Derek Carr is a legit quarterback. He is one of those people in a quarterback league that can do it without weapons, but he has weapons, and they might add more, and their defense is good. I would look for them to be the team that upsets the Chiefs because the Chiefs have not been playing like an undefeated team. All right. And they have been a well-coached team with a generational talented quarterback who has made big plays in the fourth and squeaked out the wins with very little around him. And Chris Jones, the defensive tackle, has been a force. Their whole defense has been a force. They've been making big plays. They've won. That's what with Mahomes' resume, that's what you expect. With Reid's resume, that's what you expect. That's what championship caliber teams like the Patriots with Belichick, that's what they do, right? That's what separates them. That's why every year the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, you kind of know they're winning. That's why. That's why. They don't beat themselves. However, going back to last year, they won 10 in a row. Sometimes you don't need to analyze things much past that. It's hard to win 5 in a row. So they'd be 5-0 if they beat the Saints. Saints are due. They really need this win, I think, because I think they are an elite team, and I think that they want to prove it. So I would say that the Chiefs are just due to lose. It's sometimes you don't have to get into it making sense. Sometimes in the NFL, with as much parity as there is, you just have to say plain and simple. It is time for that team to not be undefeated. All right, so moving on. What other big games do I have some interest in this week? Who do I have my eye on this week? All right. I talked about the Vikings and the Jets. I talked about the Bills and the Texans. I talked about the Saints and the Chiefs. I've talked about the Giants and the Jets. All right, so I will say I talked about the Ravens and the Bengals. All right, so let's get right into it. All right, Packers and Rams. All right, I've seen the Rams since they won the Super Bowl go downhill. Stafford's getting old. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer eventually. His career numbers are going to be up there with anyone. All right, he did it on a Lions team for a lot of years. I know Calvin Johnson was there, but without a running game, he did. He was always up there. Losing, I think they lost every game 1 year. And the quarterback, Goff gets traded. He wins the Super Bowl the next year, and it's because that franchise is a good franchise. They made a gamble. We're going to trade a young quarterback who we know has potential to be our franchise to win today, because we can win today, and they did. And since then, they've gotten progressively worse, and they've shown glimpses. That's why the Green Bay Packers playing the Los Angeles Rams this week are going to show me the guys that signed my Giant safety Xavier there to the big deal, and he's had a pick in every game. I think he has 4 games, maybe 6. I don't know. He's been playing center field like he's Willie Mays. But they were down by 28 points to the undefeated division rival Vikings in Lambeau Field, and they staged a comeback. Jordan Love did enough to not just be a game manager. He was making big throws. Jordan Love looked good. The D looked good. They're running the ball. They got a good running back that they went out and got. This team wants to win. I would like to see the Rams are the perfect team. They're a veteran team. They're getting older. They have players that if they were healthy, they would be a different team. But they can win with or without them if they play well. And they can be beat if a team says, we're coming off a loss that was a divisional loss. It angered us. The Vikings look better than they are. I don't think that they're as good as we made them look. But we did almost beat them until Jefferson made that catch with 4 minutes left, where we had to get the ball down 9 with, having to score twice. We couldn't do it. Until that happened, we were impressive in the second half. We've been impressive all year, all right? Our D looks good. We're creating turnovers all the time. Special teams looks good. We're well coached. All right. Step up and beat the Rams and show us that you can go into a tough situation against a veteran champion team and beat them. Because I think that would show me that you're one of those teams that I said, if you win this week, I'm going to start to watch it and say, this team has to be watched. They're capable of things. All right. Oh, and speaking of capable things, the Commanders and the Browns this week. This guy is getting a lot of attention, J.D. Daniels. Daniels is, I believe, leading the league in completion percentage. The Giants played the Commanders. They should have won. Graham Gano gets hurt. They can't kick extra points. They end up, but they weren't beat by the Commanders. They beat themselves. However, having said that, the Commanders don't have a lot of weapons. Jaden Daniels was not in a game that the Giants dominated. They ran the ball on. They passed the ball on. They held that offensive bay. Daniels made a big throw. He didn't dominate him, but he didn't get dominated. And then after that game, it's like he's like, I can do this, because the Giants were on him all day. He was not getting sacked. They were hitting him. He's breaking tackles. He's running. He's throwing the ball on the run, making plays when it counts. He got his confidence, and you saw that. And this week with the Browns, here's what I think. Everybody wants to think the Commanders are for real. They're 3-1. They're ahead of the NFC East. Well, here's what I think. I'm a Giants fan. I know them very well. I think they're closer to the team that almost and should have lost to the Giants than they are to the team that went and beat the Bengals, than they were to the team last week. All right? I really do. Not to take any away from Daniels. Here's what I'll say about Daniels. If you're looking to bet on the Commanders, okay, you do it, because Daniels is a rookie quarterback in the NFL, and he is leading the league after 4 weeks on, and that's just happened recently. We had Stroud. We had Lamar Jackson. We had Watson. It's been happening, and he's the type of quarterback, that dual threat that usually does it. You got to learn who he is before you can really game plan for him. But he's doing with nothing. The Redskins don't have they don't have Malik Neighbors, I'm not saying he's elite yet, but he is leading the league in catches and yards. They don't have a Justin Jefferson. They don't have a security blanket type receiver where you throw it within 5 yards of him. He'll go chase it down and yank it in with one arm. They don't have that. He has to put the ball in the tightest of places, and he does. The running game. It's not like I'm taking anything away from Robinson. Robinson's a great running back, but he's not, Derrick Henry. He's not a Saquon Barkley. He's not someone who has been putting up record-breaking numbers and carrying them to victory. It's been Daniels. Let's see if Myles Garrett and that banged-up Browns team that the Giants got their only victory against, even though I would say the Giants maybe should be 2-2, maybe, but they did dominate the Browns, so maybe 3-1, because they definitely should have beat the Cowboys. They definitely should have beaten the Commanders, and these are divisional rivals, so it will come back and kick them in the ass. It will. It will bite them right in the ass. Those divisional losses when they should have won. That's how the NFL is. They didn't finish, and it's understandable. They have no running game. Jones is there. The defense, as well as it plays, is not getting big turnover plays. Everything that they're doing is not great. Even the receiver leading the league in catches and yards, he's not and people were showing tweets of them passing the torch from Beckham to Neighbors. Slow down. Every week in Beckham's rookie year and 3 years after, he made you say, "What did he just do that? Did he just do that?" They say it's the greatest catch ever as a Giant. This is a guy on a team that had the David Tyree catch, that had the Mario Manning hand catch in the Super Bowl. Forget that. That was the best catch ever. That's Odell Beckham. All right. Just because they're both from LSU, just because they both are good as rookies, that doesn't mean anything. I'm not taking any away from Neighbors. Beckham was a generational talent. He was like Saquon Barkley. He was electrifying. Neighbors is a solid player. I think he'll be good for years to come. I'm glad he's on the team. But the Redskins don't have anyone like him. That's why I'm using him as an example, because if they did that, if he can make Daniel Jones look decent, then Daniels would look like a Pro Bowl. He's winning, and he's 3-1 without him. However, the Browns, Myles Garrett, let's get hit a couple times by that Browns defense. Yeah, did you see how they caused that fumble last week and scored the touchdown? Let's see him get in a situation like that. They just went over and see how quick your confidence drops. Caleb Williams was built as the next Michael Jordan. They don't overhype players and put pressure on them for no reason. They do it because there's something special. I'm not saying that in the NFL there hasn't been a million quarterbacks drafted 1 overall that turned out to be or nothing. But I mean, just ask the Cleveland Browns, as a matter of fact. That's who I'm talking about. But the Browns, Deshaun Watson was looked at as the best quarterback in the league with Houston, and he got in trouble. God knows what he really did, but pretty, nasty stuff. And he gets moved around, goes to an organization that has a reputation for being a bad organization, even with talent. But they do still have talent, And Garrett is still the best pass rusher in the league, I believe. He's up there with Parsons. So he is a dangerous guy to play when you're a rookie quarterback. I would say the Redskins win this week. I'd be surprised. Not really, but a little bit. I would say the Browns need to get a win. They lost. They got embarrassed by the Giants. They need to be the Browns, especially in that division where you know I don't know with the they have the Bengals and the Ravens there. They need to beat the teams that aren't in the division, and they need to make sure they win games when they play the team in their division, like Steelers. All right. So I would think that I'm looking for the Browns to make a bounce back this week. Um, who else want to talk about? The Broncos and the Raiders. I did criticize the Raiders. I said Devonta Adams is going to get traded. Well, you know what? He's hurt. I don't think he's playing this weekend, and I think that might be the perfect time to start shopping. I've heard so many teams. Um, I think I don't know if he said anything, but people have hinted. I know Rodgers is really lobbying him there because he had him in Green Bay, but before I think he was even the number one option. Of course he was. No rookie is back, not so long ago. But he's a stud. But he played with Clark. I think he's going to be. I don't know if the Chiefs are in the mix. The Ravens, they say, might be in the mix. I don't know why. I mean, because he's under contract. You don't typically rent players in the NFL like you do in baseball. I think that the Raiders, with Devonta Adams not playing this weekend, are playing a team in the Broncos that is very well coached. I think the Raiders are very well coached. I'm a Giants guy. I know all about Sean Payton. I had to sit there and watch those New Orleans Saints offenses, and Drew Brees making no mistakes in a system that would have been great for Eli Manning for years. I saw him with the Giants take them to the Super Bowl to play the Ravens with Kerry Collins in a rocking chair and nobody on that team. I mean, they got blown out, but he got something out of it. He's a great coach, Peyton. I like what he does with quarterbacks. I always have. And Bo Nix, he's made it so he's minimizing his mistakes. And that defense, the Broncos, I lived in Denver for the last 9 years. I'm in D.C. now. Grew up in Jersey, but I've seen a lot of teams. I've seen the Eagles, I've seen the Jets, I've seen the Giants, I've seen the Broncos. All right, I've seen the Commanders. I've seen the Broncos a lot, but most recently. They remind me a little of the Steelers and Giants, like a hybrid, because they build their teams every year around getting elite defensive talent. All right. And then they hopefully get a quarterback that's either a game manager or an elite quarterback, like a John Elway. And until the last 2 years of his career, they were in the Super Bowl and they've lost, but they were good every year. And then he wins 2 in a row because the defense is great and he's a great player. Now, Knicks is not Elway, but their defense, they were in the conversation with the Jaguars, with the Giants, with the Commanders, and the year started. The Colts, the Steelers, the Panthers. Take your pick. Like there's a very little chance they're going to compete. All right, this is a divisional game, guys. When I lived in Denver, they hated playing the Raiders. They lost the Oakland, and now the Las Vegas Raiders. They are huge rivals. They hate each other. It's like Giants Eagles. I'm not kidding. And I know the Oakland fans were nuts. I don't know really what the Vegas, but they used to travel. I used to go to those games. They were nuts. But look for this to be a game that's very close. Antonio Pierce is a good coach. Sean Payton's a great coach. The Broncos have surprised us in a couple big ways this year. So have the Raiders. They beat the Ravens. All right. They were winning almost the entire game last week. They dominated most of the game. They're both teams that are surprisingly good. All right. I picked them when they played the Ravens to cover an 8.5-point spread because of the fact I like Pierce. Again, Giant Super Bowl champ. I like them. I like Peyton and Pierce. I know about it from being with the Giants, and I know about the Broncos organization. And I think that this is the recipe that they have been known to win with. Let's not forget that when they won this last Super Bowl with Peyton Manning there, that I think it was Brock Osweiler, maybe. I think that's who it was, who won half of their games because they built it around D. It was running back. What is that? Philip Lindsay, Philip Lindsay, I think, was their running back, and they were really good with a nobody quarterback. because the D and Von Miller back there. Like, they build their team like that. That's why I compare the Giants to Steelers. Build around D. Hopefully, if they get that quarterback, they win because they make sure they're D. And that's what they have now. And the quarterback's not great at all. But if Peyton can make him be a game manager, all right, be like a Trent Dilfer and Alex Smith, it's hard to win like that in the NFL. But those teams that still have the playmakers, that's the key. Not that every position has a guy rated 80 and above on Madden. No, that you guys have guys that are playmakers. They get turnovers, they score touchdowns on defense. If you're going to do that, right, and stop guys in the fourth quarter when they're driving to put the game away and then go down and score, if you can do that, then guess what? You can compete. That's always been a recipe to be, a winner in the NFL. That's the type of team the Broncos are. It's a divisional rivalry. Anything can happen. That should be a good game, better than you think. The Broncos have surprised me. I can't be alone. What else we got? The Cowboys and Steelers. All right, I'm gonna make this very clear. Mike Tomlin, I think it's hard to say who's better, him or Andy Reid, because they've coached in the NFL for so long. All right, they've done it with a variety of combinations of players. Tomlin had Roethlisberger there for the majority of his career. Okay, right? Okay. Also, he has had a collection of quarterbacks in the last 2 years, and now Justin Fields. And, he has turned these guys into winners because that D is so good. However, and they also always, for as long as I can remember, even back to the Steel Curtain, I think, they've always had 5 or 6 linebackers that could start on 90% of the teams in the NFL. So they just, they run that 3-4. They have guys that are fast middle linebacker and a hard-hitting middle linebacker. They have very fast outside linebackers. They get pressure on. They always have a good tackle. That D, that linebacker, they bring in all these Penn State guys in. And, they are a very, very consistent franchise. The Maras and the Rudins, right? The Pittsburgh Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Giants. Like, those are the classic NFL teams that are class organizations, and they put out Steelers do a much better job than the Giants of putting out a consistently good prep team. However, there's some things going on in Steelers locker. He's getting the most out of everybody, but they're winning games, like it's soccer, 10-7, 13-10, 14-13. That I've never seen that work in the NFL since the Giants in the 80s. All right, when you can win with just a D, and the Giants didn't have just a D in the 80s, but that it was a different game. You'd run the ball 30, 40 times a game. The Steelers, they've been making throws. They look good. They turned the ball over. Pickens had that fumble last week against Indy that cost them. But they lost against the Colts, and Flacco came in, which, that was kind of the reason they lost. They weren't ready for a veteran to start threading the needle. But, the Steelers, I believe the Cowboys, in the beginning of the year, every single person on earth would have said Cowboys, Eagles, or Eagles, Cowboys, 1 and 2. Probably Eagles, Cowboys, 1 and 2. It's not like that. It should be, believe it or not, no matter how you want to argue, it should be the Giants, Commanders, Eagles, Cowboys. But because the Giants have given 2 games away, they've given the Cowboys a win as a gift. The Commanders a win as a gift. The Eagles stole from State. It's not like the Commanders are top division. I don't think that's going to last. Not with the rookie quarterback. Hey, if I'm wrong, good for him. I'm in the area now. When I first lived in Denver, they won the Super Bowl in 2015. Hey, maybe I got the magic touch. The Giants won when I moved to New Jersey in 2012. I'm sorry, but we'll see. We will see. I believe that this week the Steelers don't have what it takes. I think the Cowboys re-identify themselves this week, and if they don't, kiss them goodbye, because I don't think you can be embarrassed by the Saints like they were, manhandled by the Giants like you were. You can't have no running game whatsoever. Put it all on CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott and their defense to win. I don't care if you have a Dak Prescott, a CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons, these home run hit players. If you can't run the ball, okay, it doesn't matter. If the New York Giants are shutting you down, if the Saints are scoring 4 touchdowns in your house, you can't win. So they got to turn it around, and I think they have the talent to do it. I don't think the Steelers makeup is sustainable. I hear people saying they're the best defense. They put say, "Oh, the Niners, the Chargers, the Steelers, those defenses." I don't know. Steelers have a great defense. They always do. They always do. Who have they played that has really shocked you that they shut down? That's what I'm going to ask you. Now, there are some primetime players on the Dallas Cowboys, and they are overdue. So I think the Cowboys re-identify themselves and start saying that, we should be a lot worse off than we are. Let's start playing like a team that we were thought to be. All right. So that's that. What else do I got for you? I think the games that are interesting are done. You want the snoozers? Let's talk about them. The Dolphins and the Patriots. Plain and simple. I think Tua's coming back eventually, which I hope it doesn't end in tragedy. But without Tua, they are not an NFL football team. The Bills ran over them in Week 1, and they since have barely had a pulse. They're playing a Patriots team who I would identify in a similar light. That game is going to be a snooze fest, but here's the thing: I think the Patriots are going to win no matter what, because the Dolphins have yet to show that without Tua, that Tua and Hill are so good, and this is rare. But Tua is such a that rocket arm, and he's such a dynamic player. Hill, obviously, we've seen for years, is a very, very, very rare and exceptional talent. You don't see it that often, all right? But it seems like when you pull one away, it doesn't matter who else is on the team. That's the hard. They don't really have a team built to win without Tua. So I think the Pats, as bad as they look in the divisional game, are going to beat them. And even if the Dolphins win, I wouldn't get too excited, because until Tua is under center, that team is a lost cause. And the Pats aren't far behind. That game is a great game. They put it on at 9:30 on Sunday night to get you to bed from work on Monday. The Panthers and the Bears. All right. So look, hey, you know what? Andy Dalton's playing. They look better than they did without him, but I think they're still a franchise in trouble. And they're playing the Bears. Here's what I'm going to say: Caleb Williams does not look good. The Bears look like a disorganized mess. I'm going to say that the Bears, if you like them, if you like the Panthers, it's obvious. Dalton and the veteran leadership, they can manage the game, and they can beat a team like the Bears for sure. But the Bears, Caleb Williams has not had one of those games that has given the attention of a Daniels. All right, Daniels in Washington has all the attention of the rookie quarterback class. Caleb Williams was scouted as a significantly better quarterback, and he is always under pressure. That team is not doing him any favors. Look for him to do something to change it. He will have a breakout game, and I think the Panthers are the team that you could do it against. I give you a side, both sides. I could argue both of them. That's what I'm trying to do for you. I'm not saying that I think that will happen, but if it's going to, I assume it will be this year at some point. And I assume it'll be before, week 9 or week 10. And this is as good a week as that, because they, I don't look at them like the worst team in the NFL with him. I think that should, because it's a quarterback league, when he gets confident, it should make a difference. But it just goes to show you, starting a rookie quarterback was never done traditionally. When they started to do it, it was, after week 8, week 7, when, the guy behind them is older. But you usually have to sit behind a veteran. Not everybody's ready for that. Not everybody can make mistakes and have that many bad games and have all that expectation on them and keep and maintain that confidence level. Daniels obviously is somebody that has the opposite effect of him. He's going to ride that confidence, and he could be as good as he's going to be right off the bat. But you see it a lot now. It's very strange, but it's not. It used to happen all the time. They bring in a good quarterback that goes on to be a Hall of Famer, and then they bench him. because he's not playing good because he wasn't ready to start to begin with. And I hope that's not the case with Williams. I don't think it will be, but it, statistically, it's got to happen to somebody. I mean, and their opponent in Carolina, same thing. But it's not that it's over. People have come back after being benched. Andy, years and years. I think that the Steelers. Bradshaw got benched before he won any Super Bowls, and he goes on to be, he's still involved in the league as a commentator because he's such an icon. It's when you put him in there with all this pressure, and obviously you're coming into the worst program in the NFL, you can't be surprised that the 22, 23-year-old kid isn't going to just boom, get over every humiliating loss as he's getting hit harder than he's ever been hit in his life in a game that's faster moving than anything he's seen in his life. So, I think that Caleb Williams is highly touted enough that he's going to do something different. And it could be this week. If not, I don't know. Look for a rough year for him in general. All right, let's end on the Colts and the Jaguars. All right, and don't tune out yet because I got some inside info on this. That billionaire owner of the Jaguars, I'm a Giants fan. Coughlin, when he left the Giants, he goes into the front office as a vice president of operations and whatnot. I don't even know, to be honest, he's still there, but I don't think he is. But they have a relationship with Coughlin, had a relationship with the Jaguars organization. Okay, Bill Belichick is very close with the son of that billionaire owner, and I want to say maybe he went to school up in that academia in the New England area. And they somehow met there. But I'm not positive. But I know that they have a relationship. I don't know if Belichick really is going to realistically come back and coach this year. I certainly wouldn't think he'd want to walk into the Jaguars, but you got to understand the importance of relationships in the NFL. Like Belichick, it's been well documented. Giants fans, it's a wishful thinking more than anything. But the Mara family and Belichick have always remained very, very close. And the Giants, if they continue the way they've been playing, they're obviously poorly coached, and the general manager and the coach might go. And Belichick could be the answer to both in a little bit of a way. So that's one possibility. But the Jaguars are a team that there's a little less pressure, just like New England was when he took over there. I know that Boston and Jacksonville are different, but it might be his type of team. Who knows? You go in there with the quarterback like Brady, who's drafted as low as he was. You bench Bledsoe, and you end up winning. Brady has nobody's around for so long. And when you put like a Randy Moss there, they're undefeated. But Belichick, as we know, has always been crafty. So he can turn the team around quickly if he has that itch. I don't know if he does. That's the bottom line. I don't know if he does. You can't get anything out of this guy. Nothing's changed. Never answered interview questions. He's not going to tell you if he's coming back to coach. But I have a lot of friends in that area with Jacksonville. Coughlin's are close there. I'm a Giants fan. Coughlin's, God, the Giants. So he'll always be welcome there as long as he's alive. And the people I know that are familiar with that organization are talking a lot about firing the coach because last week they blew that game. They blew that game against the Texans. Oh my God. And it wasn't the first, and they're still winless. They are still winless. They are very badly coached. So if they lose this week, playing a Colts team where Joe Flacco is now under center, and because Richardson is with the hip injury. Now I'm not saying that he's their new quarterback. Flacco grew up with me. He went to college together at Delaware. I think he was at Pitt. Was he at Pitt? Yeah, I think he was at Pitt before he transferred. I don't remember if he graduated after me because he was a year younger or because he was redshirted. I don't remember, but I'm 41. He's either 40 or 41. Played against him in high school in basketball, and he's a vet. This is a great role for him. Trust me, because there's no pressure on him. He gives him, if Richardson's banged up, it's nice to have him to go to. Just the same with the Panthers. Your rookie's not ready, the young kid's not ready, you have Dalton to go to. But when you're 40 and up and you're already a backup, you got to understand that's not a long-term plan. But while he's in there, a team like Jacksonville, it could be sliced and diced, and that could be the end of the coaching. Starting for some excitement to come. That's all I'll say. I'll end with that. All right, so make sure my Yankees brim is straight and get ready for the ALDS. If I were the Kansas City Royals and I were Bobby Witt Jr., I would apologize to Aaron Judge for taking his second Triple Crown away and say that you guys better beat them tonight if you want to win this series. We know the Yankees have a long history, right, at least recently, of disappointing. But this is the first time since 2012, 2013, maybe, that they've been the number one team in the AL. And this is the best duo since Ruth and Gehrig this season with Soto and Judge. They're coming into their season hot. Stanton's doing enough. Cole is pitching like he was when he was brought there as the biggest paid pitcher ever for a long-term deal. If everything goes right, they win big tonight, and Rodon continues his hot streak. Even though he's been getting up a lot of home runs, but he's a lefty in Yankee Stadium. Hopefully, continues, and you don't have to worry about the rest of it. But Cole will be, I'm sure, pitching games 1, 4. It's going to be tough to beat the Yankees if you're the Royals. I'd be much worried about playing other teams. And it's going to be an exciting ALDS, though. I'm excited. I'm going to do a podcast tomorrow after I see who wins tonight, because it's much easier to give some context and some insightful info, I believe, on the ALDS after that game 1 is out. After everyone's ace with this new system with the buys has pitched. And let's see if what is expected to happen versus what may happen does or does not happen. It's a lot easier after game 1. Yankees and bullpen's a question, obviously. But I'm going to get into that more, all right? And then if I have time, I'm going to air something that I taped yesterday. I just would like to add a special guest on the show about the Knicks trade for Karl-Anthony Towns. I know I was beating the door as loud as anyone, arguing with all you people about trading Julius Randle, how it's necessary to bring in a big man. And they did. They did. They didn't do it in the way I wanted. I thought you brought Mikal Bridges here because that Nova core, right, which was, a Nova core 4 with Hart, with Brunson, right, with Bridges, with DiVincenzo, was special, considering that. And I thought that DiVincenzo coming off the bench, whoo, you couldn't ask for a better player. Look what he did when he had to step up and be the number 2 scorer. He was scoring 25 points a game. He's valued at $30 million a year. They're paying, he traded him. You now think the T-Wolves have a big 3 with, and whether you think DiVincenzo's that good guy, he is. He's a hustler. He plays D. He shoots the 3. He can play 3. He can play the 2. All right? He'll probably play the 1. He's going to be joining Anthony Edwards with Julius Randle. I don't really care about giving the T-Wolves a chance to be, to arming your competitor, because I'm not afraid of them. But I don't know if that bench on the Knicks looks the way I would like it to look, especially with Mitchell Robinson being who he is and being injured. And Towns is not necessarily Mikal Bridges as far as being sturdy, but I'm going to air it tomorrow because I want a special guest, and I'll just say he's an inside source with the Knicks. I want him to be on the show with me. I want to at least edit in his part, and if I can't get it, I'm going to run it tomorrow after the reaction. And if possible, I will try to get at it tonight with a quick 15-minute react to the Yankees and the Royals. Thank you for watching. I have been Ryan Smith, and this is the Ryan Smith PhireBall podcast. If you want to have a good bet, check out the Bet Rivers app. Bet Rivers. They have an amazing opportunity to do $50 single game parlay 3 times in this Square event. You could win $10,000 just with the whole, because you get 3 squares. And if your home and away teams numbers match yours, you could win up to $10,000. This is a really cool deal. You're betting football. Switch to Bet Rivers. Take the DraftKings out. Take the the FanDuel, the MGM Grand, the Caesars. Look at this company that has a lot of great sportscasters in their podcast network, and look at their betting app. I think you like to bet with them if I were you. That's just my personal opinion. I hadn't heard of them either until I did. And this Squares thing is a cool thing. They're pushing it. If I were you, I would check out the promo code there. And have a great weekend, guys. I will be in touch regularly. It's been Ryan Smith. Thank you.